Welcome back to the channel. I'm Reed. This is Man Cave Guitar Pedal Mania. I'm continuing to look at my individual delay pedals versus the Boss DD-500. The DD-500 is an incredibly powerful digital delay unit which, if you're willing to dive into the deep menus and the software, you can make sound like basically any delay sound you can imagine. However, I'm a home player and I don't want to mess with all of that. So my question is, does it sound as good just turning the knobs on the front of the delay as my individual pedals? This time I'm comparing it to something a little further afield than just a regular digital or analog delay. As you can see above my right shoulder, I have the Ibanez Echo Shifter. Now this is a version 2 Echo Shifter. They just came out with a version 3. I do not know what the differences are, but bear in mind if you're looking for the most current version, that's not what I've got. It will be somehow different. Or maybe it's an exact recreation. I didn't bother to look. So the Echo Shifter is not just a delay pedal, it's a modulated delay. And that means that it makes the notes warble, it changes the pitch, it modulates them. I'm not a huge fan of modulated delay. I use it very sparingly. But that's not really the party piece of the Echo Shifter. The party piece, as you can see, it has this switch that says oscillation. When you turn the oscillation switch on, it creates limitless oscillating feedback. Now that's an interesting effect, and I'm not entirely sure how I would use that in a musical context. Again, I mostly play along with other people's music, but it's fun to experiment with. I'll give you a demonstration. So, on the Echo Shifter, this sliding bar controls the time. See, this blinking light shows you the tempo I'm at. Right away you can see a difference between that and the DD-500. I have no idea how many milliseconds that flashing light represents. In most cases it's not necessary. You can sync that light close enough to the tempo of a song. Even if you've got tap tempo, you're never going to be exactly on beat. So here is my unaffected signal. This is my Squire Jazz Master, in which I've put a set of Guitar Fetish Jazz Master pickups. Now, if I turn on the delay, I can give it less repeats if I turn the feedback down. In fact, all the way down will give you one repeat. We're up for a few more. Nice trails. But that's not why you use a modulated delay, is to get that kind of super clean digital delay. If I flip the modulation switch, now I've got this. Alright, I'm going to turn up the feedback and mix so we get more repeats. You hear how the pitch changes from the first repeat to the last repeat. It goes up in pitch and then down. You can control the depth of the modulation with the depth knob. So there's quite a drastic swing. Flat, up, down. Now again, I don't use a lot of modulated delay. If you're trying to emulate a tape delay, the modulation gives it a little bit more of an accurate effect, because those tapes, one, they modulated as the tape wore out and as the mechanical parts wore out. Just the fact that the springs holding the tape heads against the tape were no longer as strong, that the tape was spinning at different speeds, and because the tape is a very thin medium because it stretches. I'm going to turn the modulation off. Now I'm going to turn on the oscillation. I've turned my mix back to about 10 o'clock. That was just ambient noise that it's modulating now. Not even a note that I played. And of course, if you want to get really crazy, you can turn on both switches. But you can hear the oscillation really takes over everything. And that's only at 10 o'clock. If I raise the oscillation, that's a pretty interesting kind of effect. Now, here's my favorite thing to do with it though. Because it's such a large unit, I don't really like the way it fits on my pedal board. I like to have it on a little tray next to me so that I can do this. Admittedly, that's not something you're going to want to do all the time. But when you're in the mood to do something a little unusual, I just love it. You can use it for kind of a similar effect to Matt Bellamy or Reeves Gabrels. For a while they were using, all of a sudden I can't remember what it's called, a chaos pad, a DJ effect that you can do swirly effects and things. Done with an XY MIDI axis. So interesting. But now the question is, can I recreate that using my Boss DD-500? Well, I know it'll do modulated delay. First thing I'm going to do is try and sync my tempo. That may not be exact, but it's pretty close. It's what tap tempo is so handy for. Now this is just on your standard hi-fi digital delay, which I love, but it's not what the Echo Shifter does. So let's try analog first. Notice how much darker the repeats are in analog. That is much more like the Echo Shifter. Now this is 100% modulation depth. And it's not nearly as modulated as it is on the Echo Shifter. And put that back at 50. So let's try going to something a little stranger like the Terra Echo. starting to get a little more modulated. Let's try feedback. So it will feed back. Okay. I just use a standard. Now here the feedback's just giving me the repeats. So you can get near infinite repeats, which is nice. Yes, I had the Echo Shifter on. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, I'm not going to go through every mode on the DD-500 because, again, this is about simplicity. So, I am having difficulty finding anything on the DD-500 that's remotely like the Echo Shifter's infinite oscillation. The modulation depth on the DD-500 is not nearly as extreme as the modulation depth on the Echo Shifter, and it doesn't do the infinite oscillation. Now, one thing it does have that my Echo Shifter does not is an expression pedal input. Now that could be very important. For instance, on that Terra Echo, you notice it had that really aggressively swelling feedback at the end, but not this continual. So there you go. The DD-500 does not, in my opinion, really have that effect easily available. Now, I'm not saying that if I dug into the software, got out the manual, which is like an astronaut's handbook, and dug through it at length, that I couldn't figure out how to do that. But just fiddling with the controls on the front, I'm really having trouble getting anywhere close to it. So I think that the Ibanez Echo Shifter wins this one. Fantastic. So I hope that you think these comparisons are interesting and you'll continue to stay with me. I have a few more pedals to try out that are individual, and then I'm going to do a shootout of another multi-function delay versus the DD-500, and that should be very interesting. So, if you do find this interesting, consider subscribing to the channel, and I hope to see you soon. I've been Reed. This has been Man Cave Guitar Pedal Mania.